welcome to Making Engaging Community Connections Accessible here on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. We know that today, aside from MECCA returning to our normal 10 a.m. standard Eastern Standard Time, aside from us returning, we also know that this day holds special significance around the country because today is election day. So I know that many of you that indicated that you're going to tune in today at 10 a.m. have already voted. Many of you have. And those of you who haven't, I encourage you to get out to the polls and vote. I'm not going to try to sway your vote one way or the other or indicate which way I voted, just that we vote. And the significance of having our voice and our opinions recorded in the language of voting is significant, specifically now, considering all of the nominations and all of the seats that have and will become available during this next 4-year period. So it makes it imperative that we continue to vote and participate in that process, that our voice be heard. A couple things real quick. I want to be sure that I remind you that we will be covering our purpose, the purpose of MECCA, why it started, the history, etc. Also going to spend a little bit of time talking about local businesses, and then highlighting the fact that previously at the end of each live I would say encourage each of us to speak life, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time explaining why that is and the philosophy behind that. So again, for those of you who just tuned in, thank you for joining MECCA Live, Making Engaging Community Connections Accessible, here on Tuesday morning, November 3rd, 2020. What I want to share with you briefly before we get into our two topics, is this. Let's see, when was it? I forget the date, but I participated in a local event that encouraged the community to vote, and it was centered around a location that was designated as an early voting location, so they could come to the event, they could also vote, and then there were vendors there, and I was just taken in by the whole thing, right? The whole thing was well organized. And not only was it well organized, but it was a complete family event. There was face painting and food and music and other vendors, and aside from being able to vote, it was an amazing experience. But I think that being present in the community and participating in things like that rally the community, obviously around voting, but also illuminating what's in the community, the businesses that's in the community, the talent that's in our community, was just amazing. And it took me a minute because I got sucked into that, and that's part of why MECCA and what MECCA does, and the focus of MECCA. But it also speaks to why I got sucked in. So I'm there and I'm just like taking it all in. I'm watching the kids play. I'm listening to the conversation. I'm interacting with friends and sorority members, and it was just an amazing experience. A lot of the local Divine Nine members were present, and that was also very, very rewarding. But then I laughed at myself because I was like, wait a minute, I could be filming this. Like, I could get clips of the business people in my community that are right here, and that's part of what MECCA does. What we want to do is illuminate the different businesses in our community, specifically those that are small businesses that are giving back to the community or that are functioning within our community. That's what we want to do. Like, a lot of times it's difficult to be aware of who's doing what in the community, and the talent that's in our community, and the businesses that are in our community that are comprised of our community, right? So I laughed at myself because I was like, well, that took you long enough to decide to do that, but I was so glad that I did. And there were many that didn't want to be videoed, which was fine. So I just took pictures of their display and presented their information on our MECCA, Making Engaging Community Connections Accessible Facebook page. So I'm going to illuminate that right now. I'm going to tell you some of the businesses that I was able to view, and owners that I was able to meet, and I have their business cards. But also remember that you can visit our MECCA Facebook page, Making Engaging Community Connections Accessible on Facebook, and the pictures of their display, their business card, and contact information is also listed there. But real briefly, I'm only going to give you like the name and either the contact number or how you can locate them on social media. One of them is, excuse me, Level Up Creations with a K, gift baskets and more. That's Shayla Shay on Facebook, SHAYELASHAYE. That's on Facebook, and the phone number 239-645-3616. Level Up Creations. That's gift baskets and more. Another one, Ebony Jada, Jayda. She's the owner of Your Fave BBWBoutique.com. And it's an array of dresses and things of that nature. Really, really pretty stuff. Again, Ebony, Nyjayda. You can find her on, I think she's on Facebook, but her card has her website. So Your Fave BBWBoutique.com. The number is 239-671-7695. Again, you can find these businesses on our Facebook page. High Hand Crafts at High Hand Crafts on Facebook. That's beaded bracelets and necklaces and things of that nature. Painting with Unique. And she was one of the local vendors that allowed me to do a video. So if you go to the Facebook Making Engaging Community Connections Accessible Facebook page, you will see the video of Miss Unique there. She just finished painting one of the children's faces, but she had her stuff, her display there, and I'll explain that shortly. But let me just give you this information. Painting with Unique. Our specialties are face painting, paint parties, party suites, and much more. Contact Unique at unique to 2017 at gmail.com. That's EUNIQUES 2017, sorry, at gmail.com. The phone number is 239-200-9483. And I want to say this real quickly before I go on to the other ones. Miss Unique had canvases that were pre-prepped. So the outline was there, kind of like when you get a coloring book and you know where the lines are and you want to color the way you want to. She had pre-prepped canvas that had designs on them that had included a paintbrush and paints. She said that she was doing this prior to COVID, and then when COVID hit, you know, there was the consideration and the caution regarding going into homes, and so she prepackaged them and people were purchasing them that way. She also does paint parties in the same fashion, kind of like Painting with a Twist, but it's Painting with Unique. I met several artists from Orlando. I don't want to say it wrong. Moni Art, MONNIE Art. You can find their the young lady, the artist paintings. I think there were paintings. I was trying to think if there was mixed medium. There were mixed medium, but I didn't know. I was trying to remember her display, but it was amazing. And the thing is, she told me she just started painting last year. So on Instagram, it's at MONNIE Art Official, and then the website www.monnieartshop.com. I have 3 more to go. Keys, Sweet Treats, and more. 239-810-7337. And again, on our on our Facebook page, you can see the items. They look delicious. I didn't get any because I was trying to cut back on my sweets, but they looked delicious. On the business card, there are cakes and cupcakes, and I can't tell what this is, but I know that when I was there, it looked like it was in a shoot kind of thing. Amazing. They're beautiful, and people were walking by eating them and like, can I get some more? So Keys, Kee apostrophe S, Keys, Sweet Treats with a Z, and more. 239-810-7337. We have Nikki's Tea Parties LLC, tumblers, etched glassware, different types of printing, apparel, balloon art, and more. Luxury life accessories and party decor. And that is Nikki's Tea Parties LLC. You can find her on Instagram at Nikki's Tea Parties, NIKKIS TEAPARTIES. Also on Facebook. 2 more to go. Glam Chick Collections. That's collections with a K. A lot of really neat apparel and other accessories. Glam Chick Collections LLC, on Instagram at glam underscore chick underscore collections, collection underscore. And then you can find her, let me see, I don't think there's a number on here. It's not, but I'll give you the email address, glamchickcollection at yahoo.com. And last but not least, Two Stoned LLC. I know that sounds funny, but it's crystals, jewelry, beaded, accessories, and more. So it's the number two, Stoned LLC. And let me see if there's some content. Okay, so on Facebook, it's the number two, Stoned LLC. And then on Instagram, it's at two dot stoned underscore. And then you'll get to see the beautiful beaded apparel that was there, that they handcrafted. And so the reason why I took the time to literally spell out the web addresses and the email contacts and things like that is because it was amazing. I'm sitting there and I stood there and I was like, this is exactly what we should be doing. We're celebrating each other. We're rallying around a cause, and it's in a situation, it's a setting that's conducive for the entire family. And it warmed my heart. So I wanted to take the time to deliberately share that with you. But let's get into to why MECCA. Those of you who were watching MECCA Facebook Live, that's how we started. We started on Facebook. Since March, you understand some of the things that we had to navigate in order to continue to post live videos that provided information for the community, specifically as we embarked upon this conundrum of COVID-19. But let me give you the backstory. In my 20s, I decided that one of the things that I wanted to do was to create an after-school program that was therapeutic. So it was a therapeutic platform that spoke to the talents of many of the youth and children that I'd worked with. So at this point, I'm nearing 30, and at that point I had worked with severely emotionally, behaviorally disturbed adolescents and children. And that was in mental health centers or in school settings or in shelters or residential facilities. And I was amazed at the level of talent that many of the residents and or clients that I met with, that's what we call them then, it was clients, and it's gone from client to consumer. But anyway, the youth and children that I served, I was amazed at the talent that they had. Amazing artists, singers, dancers, actors. I mean, these were their outlets, and it was amazing and athletes, right? So I said, you know what I want to do? I want to start a program. They would go to school, but they would come home. They would come to this program, and there would be therapists present, and ideally therapists that had experience with the arts, right? So that was my idea. That was my brainchild, and I named it MECCA. And what it was stood for at that point was making everlasting community connections accessible. So the only thing that changed was the E for engaging. Now fast forward to March 2020. COVID-19 hits, at least in my local community, following the spring break. From that point on, the return from spring break was delayed, and then we finished out the 2020 school year remotely. And many people in my community, many of my friends know that I'm a social worker. And so some of the same information that I was giving to the families and students that I was serving at the time, many of my friends and many of the people in my community and my neighborhood were asking me the very same questions, like, where do I go for this resource? How can I apply for this? When do we think that this will run out? And how will just the very same questions about resources in the community, access to different types of assistance, whether it was specifically related to COVID-19 or not. And then I thought, you know what? Perhaps the best way, another way to disseminate this type of information, because I found that many people were asking the same questions. So if there was a way to answer these questions in a way that could be easily accessible through social media, then let's do that. Still answering the phone calls, still providing services to the students and families that I served at that time, but also offering this to people that are familiar with me on social media and or have access to the links that I provided. That's how we started. The why. The why being because the part of the community that breathes life into it. The part of our communities that sustain life are the active parts, and it's the give and the take. It's the part where we nurture and we grow, but then we also bloom and flourish, and then we nurture and we grow and we bloom and flourish. So it's flourish. It's usually those people and those organizations and those agencies that are active in the community for the purpose of being active in the community. We have in any community, I'm sure, but I know that speaking on behalf of my community, there are many agencies and many organizations that are active, that are seeking ways to bless and benefit those in the community. And then there are other parts of the community that go where the cameras are, right? We know that exists. And if the cameras aren't there, then they're not there. If there's not going to be some sort of notoriety, if there's not a certain number of participants, or if there's not going to be enough viewing to qualify, if I cannot, support having my camera crew or whoever there, then generally they're not going to be present. And that's fine. We all have to sustain, our resources and our livelihood. At the same token, our community breathing in and out doesn't necessarily work that way entirely. And so the why part speaks directly to why I took the time a few minutes ago to walk you through the cards of the local businesses owners that I met, and that connection piece, the life and breath of our community depends upon the life and breath of the people in the community. And that means keeping those in our community safe. That means illuminating issues in our community that are affecting people, even if it's not on the news. That means supporting and rallying around our children, their successes, supporting them when they slip and they may fall from grace, right? It means rallying around them and supporting them and loving them and nurturing them back to the right track. That means that when our children are hurting, if a trauma has taken place in our community, and even if it didn't take place specifically in our community, but affects our community because it affects the people in our community, that's what we should be about. MECCA is here for that purpose. MECCA is here because what we want to do is reconnect the disconnected pieces of our community. There are people in our community that feel like they are invisible. There are people in our community that feel like they have no voice. There are people in our community that are suffering, and there's far too many people in our community that are doing so alone. I learned recently meaning within the last 30 days, that there are basic resources that, of course, I'm going to be aware of because, I'm used to referring people and providing information. But basic resources in our community that some of our members in our community don't even know exist. Why is that? Why is that? We have to do better, and it starts with us. It's not she has to do better or he needs to stop doing that. It's we. That's why MECCA, and that's why MECCA was started. And I gave you a little bit of the history behind its origin. Like, it was not going to be engaging. It was going to be everlasting community connections. But hopefully we'll be able to do that same thing with MECCA. So let's get right into it. Many of you are aware that right now, at this time in our nation's history, we are facing division across the board. Whether it's politically, whether it's racially, whether it's socially, whether it's economically, whether it's our position on COVID-19, its legitimacy or not, whether it's the wearing of masks, whether it's how we qualify the pandemic and or the vaccine that's being discussed. There's so many different things happening, and today is election day. At a time when so many are suffering and so many are impacted simultaneously, it's one thing to be in a position where your finances are in flux, right? It's another thing to be concerned about your health care because maybe you already have a compromised medical condition that can be further exacerbated by COVID-19. Perhaps you're in a situation where the nature of what's being discussed in politics right now can directly affect your everyday life. But now Today, on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, many of those things are compounded. Many people are facing the uncertainty in many of those categories. Understanding now that with that being said comes stress, comes the angst of not knowing what's going to happen next. Many people have been laid off since March. And if you go on social media and you listen to some of the conversations, I'm going to be transparent for a second. I've been on social media and I understand how social media works. So before I say this, let me put that disclaimer out there. I know how social media works. But it's been fascinating to go to different groups that are designed for one thing. The group was created, if you read it, I'm famous for going to a group. And then if I get confused, being like, okay, maybe this, I'll assume that maybe I missed something. And I'll go back to the About tab and click on the About tab. And okay, so we're supposed to be talking about merchandise. And it's a whole post 100 comments beyond where it started, having nothing to do with what the group is designed to. So I say that for a reason. People are inundated. Inundated. Boom, 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 boom. COVID, 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 COVID. Mask, 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 mask. Protection, protection, protection. Election, 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 election. Racial, 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 racial. Social, 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 social. Economic. That's a lot to come at. A lot. And I go, like I said, I go in, to different groups to, I have a business that I'm trying to promote. I'm trying to, and I have to be mindful because not all business groups and ad groups will allow you to do ads and brochures. So I have to be mindful of how to navigate that. Some of them are very scripted. You can share your information, but you can't sell it. So those kinds of things. So I have to navigate that. So while I'm doing that, I'm on a group and I'm I'm reading the comments. I'm like, whoa, I'm trying to say, can y'all look at my merchandise? What's my point? My point is the tensions are high. Stress levels are high. Anyway, add to that, I don't know when my next full paycheck is coming in. Add to that, my children are doing remote learning because I want them to be safe, but they're not doing well because they need to be in person. They do better. Understanding temperaments and personalities and learning modalities. If you have a child that is more tactile and or kinesthetic, then learning remotely may pose a different challenge for them than for your auditory and visual learners. So we have parents navigating how to fulfill all of their parental obligations, food, lights, electricity and lights, same, thank you, internet, things of that nature, and also monitor the child's remote learning. Now some parents have found themselves at this space where do I send my child back to in-person school? The reason why I didn't was because I didn't know what was going to happen with COVID. I didn't know how this thing was going to impact them, right? But now a lot of parents have found themselves in the situation where do I keep them home to keep them safe, or do I send them back to school because their education? And so many parents have made a decision to send their children back, and there brings that angst for some. When we have these spaces where it's already tenuous as it relates to our temperament and our whether we feel like we're in control or out of control, and the stress levels and tension levels, we're already there. And we go to social media for whatever reason, either to connect with friends or to take a break. I'm gonna take a break from this and I'll go on Facebook and see what people are talking about. And then it's sometimes it stokes that anxiety and that sense of, oh my gosh, even more. And now, the more I watch the news, the more I see social media, the more I see people just antagonizing each other along the lines of race, along the lines of party lines, along the lines of who they've decided that they're going to vote for in today's election, along the lines of many different things that really don't serve any other purpose but to divide. And then what do we do with that? What do we do with when we're left in that space of some people become angry, some people become frustrated, some people are just stay in the space of, you know, and then their kids come home from school. Like, we still have life, and that's the point I'm trying to make. With all these things swirling around, we still have our day-to-day responsibilities. We still have our obligations and the things that people expect of us and the things that rightly are our responsibility. So what do we do then? Like, how do we handle that, right? um, I want to use that as a segue into the second part of today's topic, which is why we speak life. On Thursday, November 5th, the topic will be how to find calm in the storm. And that storm could mean anything. It could mean the political storm, or the social storm, or the economic storm, or the storm of the pandemic, right? Or any other issue that you find yourself in. But I'm mentioning those because those are kind of simultaneous situations that are riddled with uncertainty, right? But we're gonna unpack that on Thursday. But I wanna make the segue into Thursday by speaking on the second part, and that is why we speak life. Previously, when we were um, in March, we had 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every day, every weekday, excuse me, every weekday from Monday to Friday. It's a different topic, a different resource, information in the community. If I heard about a food drive, or if I knew what the locations were locally, where the food grab and go was, and that was the school district had provided um, breakfast and lunch where you could drive up to different locations and tell them how many in your family, and they would give you that amount of meals for that day. So whether it was that, or if I knew about different resources or links to, I remember one was um, regarding restaurant workers and how they could apply for different resources. Um, that's what we were doing in March, but we were doing it every single day: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's what we were doing. We've come back, so I want to remind you that it'll be Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so on Thursday, November 5th, the topic will be how to find calm in the storm, and that's part of this speaking life part. We may not always be able to control the things that happen in and around us, right? But we can control how we respond. We can control if we allow that energy to impact us, and how. Because we are human at the end of the day. You know, we are in fact human, and so we are moved by certain things, and we are beings that emote and think and move, right? We have all these different dimensions, and many of us choose which dimension is going to be the primary source of control. But we'll unpack that on Thursday. Sometimes, by that I mean, some of us allow our emotions to run the show predominantly. Some of us are more logical. And so our brain, and then when we do that, where's the balance, right? So we're going to talk about that on Thursday, how to find calm in the storm. But how is it that I'm able to maintain this sense of peace and calm, regardless of what's happening around me? It begins with our thoughts. The most powerful force is a silent one, and that is thought. How does that relate to speaking life? There's a verse and a quote that says, the power of life and death live in the tongue. And a lot of kids growing up, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. There's not a more untrue phrase that I remember hearing and saying as a child as that one. Now, in context, you can say what you want. I'm moving around. I get that. But literally, it's not true. The things that I say, my thoughts become words and my words become actions. But the things that I say, we say speak life because if I'm speaking positively, that changes the trajectory of my mood. It affects how I see things. And for someone who loves quotes, I understand how speaking life is significant and why that's paramount in how I go about my business, right? I've read, and many of my really good friends have said the same thing, that the subconscious has zero, zero sense of humor, does not understand or navigate sarcasm. Everything is literal. And so, how I speak about myself, even in jest, because my body's listening, um, what I say about other people, I don't know how they're going to interpret that. I may mean it as a joke or whatever the case may be, but I don't know how they're going to interpret that. So be mindful of what we say, because things resonate in different ways at different times, and in ways that we may not necessarily be cognizant. And what we want to do is speak life, because if we're speaking positive, and sometimes the truth doesn't feel positive, but if we're speaking positively and we're speaking affirmations, those things will come to pass. Because the stuff that we say, if we say it and follow it up, we're unstoppable. But let me put it this way. When you learn to swim, when I was learning to swim, I remember the person telling me, if you're ever pushed in water, point your head toward the surface and your body will pop up. Your body follows your head. Isn't it interesting that if my body follows my head, and my head is composed of my mouth and my mind, my body is following what? Another example. I remember I was getting my graduate degree out in Washington State, and I was mountain biking with some friends, and there was a couple of trails that they would go on, and it was way more technical than what I was used to. I was just used to riding a road bike. It wasn't, all these cuts and turns and hops and stuff, and I was no good at it. And but I had so much fun. So it took me a little longer to maneuver some of the things that they were good at, because they could hop and do different things that I couldn't at the time. And I remember one time we were on this real difficult course. It was difficult for me, but it was something that they were used to navigating. And every time I came to a sharp curve, which I tended to fall over, as soon as I would think, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall, boom, I fell. It was a thought. I didn't say it out loud. It was a thought. And boom, I fell. Every single time I said, okay, you can do this, you can do this. You might slip or slide, but you can do this. In my head, I made it through. Every single time. There was not one time when I said, oh my gosh, I don't want to fall, or oh my gosh, I'm going to fall, and didn't fall. Because what ended up happening was my body began to brace for the fall. And as I'm beginning to brace for the fall, I'm not maneuvering my bike like I need to. So I thought it, my body reacted, I fell. It's not like, oh, magic. It's cause and effect. The thought caused an effect, or caused a reaction that resulted in me wiping out. And some of them were not cute. We say speak life. I say speak life at the end of every live, because I want to encourage you to think in that way. I want to encourage you to use your language to your own benefit and for the benefit of those around you. If you're so used to, saying you're so stupid, you're going to start believing that. Even in jest, your body's going to be like, stupid. Stupid. Right? If I change that, which I have, to, and thinking you can do better. You knew better than that. Yeah, I did. Okay, what are we going to do differently? It's like if I position myself, something happens. Okay, what's the positive take from it? What can I learn from the situation? What's the positive take from it? What I learned was that's probably not the best way to do that. My repositioning myself is, okay, that's not the best way to do that, but this is. So in the event that I find myself in similar situation, in the event that I'm presented with some kind of conundrum where I have to meter something even similar, even remotely similar to what I just dealt with, this is the way I'm going to address it. This is how I'm going to focus it. And it keeps us in this position of evolution. It keeps us evaluating what we did. Could I have done that better? Okay, boom. So now we have this awareness, because you're going to hear me say it a lot. At the point of awareness is the point of accountability. At the point when we become aware, that's when we become accountable. Once I look at that situation, it is incumbent upon me, anytime something doesn't go quite right. I set up something and it fails. Okay, what did I miss? What could I have done differently? It is my responsibility to evaluate that and see what I could have done differently and where I need to pick up on, and then set that into motion. It's my responsibility. But that being said, as I go through that process and as I position myself toward successfully completing that and then achieving and setting new goals, then so doing puts me in a space of ever evolving, ever awareness, ever accountability. But I become the better me in the process. So why MECCA? Because making engaging community connections accessible is how we remain connected. I can't mourn with you. I can't celebrate with you if I'm not connected with you. If I don't know who you are, if I don't even know that you exist, I can't celebrate with you and I can't mourn with you. I can't show your business cards to many, many, many people across social media if I haven't made that connection with you. And I want you to know that on November 8th, I'm told on November 8th, at the same location, which was the Stars Complex in the Dunbar community here in Fort Myers, there will be another event where local businesses and local vendors will be present. So please keep that in mind. Those of you who live in the 239, I'm just playing. Those of you who live in the Lee County area of Fort Myers, Florida, um, please keep that in mind that the Stars community is scheduled to have another similar event on November 8th where there will be local businesses and local vendors selling different types of items and advertising their businesses and what they do. So please keep that in mind. The last one I attended was family friendly, so I believe children are welcome, the entire family, and it's right in the heart of the community, and that is why MECCA. The reason why we speak life is because we want to continue this evolution process. We want to continue to put people and encourage people to remain in that positive mindset because what we think, we will become. What we say, we will reflect. That's why we speak life. So I want to remind you, November, no, Thursday, November 5th, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, how to find calm in the storm. And I should say present storm, but in the storm, that's how it was written. And also, go vote. If you haven't voted yet, please make sure that you make your way to the polls and cast your ballot. Um, I have an 18-year-old who will be 19 soon, who is casting his first ballot in the national election. So, with that said, I want to remind you again, November 5th, this Thursday, is our next Making Engaging Community Connections Accessible live, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, be kind to yourself that you may be kind to others and speak life. See you soon.